Welcome this week in Missouri Politics. Session fully underway. All the legislators sworn in. The governor's inaugurated, and they're ready to go. We are joined today by 4 freshman state representatives. Representative Will Jobe from Independence, thank you for making the time.
Thank you very much.
What's your pin there?
This is a Army badge, combat action badge.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Ray Reed, rising star of the Democratic Party. Welcome to the show, sir. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
Where's the district at?
83, suburbs of St. Louis, Brentwood, Maplewood, Richmond Heights, Shrewsbury, a little bit of Afton.
Where everybody shops there, right?
That's right.
I got you. Mike Steinmeyer, Independence, Missouri. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks for having me.
And Brandon Phelps, Johnson County's own. Thank you so much for making the time. What's Hawks up to?
Hawks is a busy guy, but he keeps his cards pretty close to his chest. So I don't know that
Like his hair.
Exactly. There you go, like his hair. I don't know that I could tell you his plan right now.
I'm excited for whatever he ends up doing next. But tell me, what a great honor. You come from an amazing lineage, going back to David Pierce, of people representing Warrensburg in the legislature. What, now that you're all sworn in and things are probably going to start this week getting to normal legislating, what's your expectations this session?
Well, I think, first and foremost, as freshmen, and I think this would apply for all of us. I don't want to speak to us all, but, we've got to learn the building. We've got to keep our eyes and ears open and figure out what's going on and learn the building. But then, for me, my expectations, at least of myself, is to do the work that I told the folks in my district I was going to do. And, we've got to do that. And that's my plan. I know that sounds vague, but listen, that was the promise I made.
Well, you have a unique district in that you have a major four-year institution in this state. There, you also, Johnson County has typically been home to several high-profile Missouri politicians. It's right on Highway 50. To me, the next road the state needs to focus on. There are blocking and tackling needs your district has. It's kind of a unique place to serve.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. It is, like you said, we've had a great lineage of legislators that have come from that area, and so there's some big shoes to fill. But there again, I think the way we do that is for, at least for me, don't forget the district, don't forget the people, listen to them. Hawks was great about that. Senator Pierce was great about that.
And you got Rob Russell to keep an eye on.
We got Russell keep an eye on.
Full plate. Yep. Ray, tell me, what is your you have a bit of a better insight than most people coming in. You've worked in state government for Governor Nixon. You're very well connected politically. What is your expectations coming into session?
My expectation is that, my caucus, Democratic caucus, we're coming in with some hope that our friends across the aisle will put the partisan politics behind us. The election's over. Hopefully we can get to work doing serious work for the families across Missouri.
What do you think, Will? You come to the legislature. What are your expectations?
My expectations and my hope are that we can come together, we can do the work. I think we all, whether we're freshmen, seniors, Republicans, Democrats, we came here to represent our 39,000 constituents and do the work that they need done, help them out in their lives, make our community safer, and get the things done that we need to do to help them out. And
what do you think? You've been around politics quite some time. You had some idea of what this was before you got into it. What's your expectations going into session?
Well, obviously it's a new day, a new time for our state, and we have some challenges ahead of us. I'm excited about moving Missouri forward economically. Public safety is a big issue. Listening to our constituents is a big deal, and in Jackson County, they're quite vocal. So we have some things on our radar that we will continue to talk about going down the road.
Let's talk about, there was a speaker's vote last week, a little bit of an unusual one. Usually it's a Democrat versus a Republican. This was Republican on Republican. I always thought it was a little bit of much ado about nothing, and it kind of ended up being not particularly significant. What do you think the fallout is in that room when you're in caucus? Do you think, I'm not sure it didn't make the speaker stronger.
Well, I think our speaker's going to be just fine. We're going to get behind the agenda that he's going to lay out because it's in line with Governor Keogh's, and I'm not worried about it. I think we're gonna move past it. We've got business to attend to, and I think that should be our focus, both sides of the party.
I heard people talk about it, not really legislators, heard a lot of other outside people talking about this vote, but after it happened, I don't hear anybody even referencing it anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of gone away, and I would hope that there isn't any fallout, quite frankly. To answer your original question there, it's like Mike says, the speaker has a plan. He's laid out a plan, and most of us are in full agreement with that, and his plan aligns with the governor. I think we're going to move forward, and I just don't think there's going to be any fallout. It's time to get business done.
As a Democrat, you had to be like popping some popcorn and watching the fight, right? You had to feel like Brian Williams in the Senate, who spent 6 years watching the Republicans fight each other. You got to do it in the House now.
For sure, for sure. We'd love to see Ashley Arney be the speaker one day, but we knew that wasn't going to happen, so we were just ready to get to business. Let's put the speaker role behind us and get to work for the folks of Missouri.
And, well, at some point, you'll have to tell the speaker, remember, we all did vote for you. I mean, let's be real here.
I will.
Let's talk about Governor Keogh, sworn in last week. There was a real feeling of family in the Capitol. Mike Keogh has built the greatest network of people that he personally knows in this state that I've ever seen. You'd asked me, can you meet enough people to become governor? I said, no. Mike Keogh may have proved that wrong. It was a nice feeling to see, by all accounts, a good man sworn in as governor.
It was, and I definitely appreciated it, enjoyed this week and all the events surrounding the inauguration. And, I think you got to give credit where credit's due. And, Mike Keogh did a amazing job in the campaign and has paid the dues to be where he's at.
Brandon, it is interesting. Mike Keogh can go to any county in this state and go to an event and start calling people out by name and know what their kids' sports are. It is an amazing thing. It was kind of nice. It was a feeling of, the Republican Party can look like a freak show sometimes. There is I believe, a plurality of normalcy, of normal people who have reasonable expectations of government, mostly to be left alone, that have worked hard in the past to elect conservative Republicans. When it's tapping it in now for a Republican to win a statewide race. That's not always been the case. And I saw a lot of the folks I hadn't seen in a while who were on those tough campaigns, those talent campaigns, the Matt Blunt campaigns. I saw a lot of them coming back, and I thought that was it had an outstanding feel in the Capitol for the inaugural ball.
Well, I would agree. I think the week has been fantastic. I mean, it's been an enjoyable week, but, so a point that you made earlier is we have elected a good person to be our governor.
Yeah.
We've not elected your stereotypical politician. And Governor Keogh is a great individual, and I think I was on this show about a year ago or so, and I thought he was the perfect man for the job.
You called it?
And I think the people in the state of Missouri, they've confirmed that for us. He's a great individual.
He did call that his shot. I will say he was on that.
It's hard not to like Mike Keogh. He's a great guy.
Who's got some ties to your neck of the woods?
That's right.
What do you think? I mean, you've been a lot of politicians. And maybe this is just rose-colored glasses of early administration honeymoon. I almost have to fight myself not to get excited about Mike Keogh being governor.
I agree. It's, for me, having someone with the business background but understands how government works that's his greatest strength. And coming in just being genuine in a room, like you said. I've been to many of his events, and it wasn't political. It was just family time. He just talked to us. He knew people by name, and that tells me he cares about every person in Missouri. I don't care what your political persuasion is. This man wants you to do well in life, and that's a strong message, and it resonated.
Let's talk about the thing he discusses. I saw Jason Rosenbaum summed up his speech. I like the speech. He talked about his mama.
Yeah.
I got to meet his mama a few times. I attended one of the most meaningful funeral services I ever attended, about just people talking about her and what a special person she was. But Rosenbaum summed it up with economic development and crime prevention. And I think to Mike Keogh, those two connect. But you've actually been a local official. Part of that plan is going to be to have the state take over the St. Louis Police Department. As a former councilman, that's got to be a little bit of a hard concept to get your head around.
Yeah, and I know they wrestled with that. It's hard to understand from Jeff City what we can do to be a benefit to St. Louis. I hope that the local elected officials will work closely with the state and communicate what they need, what they see. I'm sure they've done studies on crime. We need to see those. But it's a serious issue. If we're going to be attractive to capital investment in this state, we have to get a handle on crime. on the east side of the state and the west side of the state. We have to be serious about it.
You know, Ray, Hicks like myself, we don't like to admit it. But if you're going to build a highway in Butler County, if you're going to be free cheese given out, St. Louis pays part of that freight. So probably if you really want to talk about, we'll get the state moving economically, that conversation probably starts in St. Louis. Mike Keogh's point, if you don't get a handle on crime, you're never going to get you're never going to get the conditions you need for economic development. You know, it just feels like he's got a point there. It's just how you go about it.
You know, I think he had a point. You know, I'm a younger guy, but I'm old enough to remember 2020 when these guys were talking about local control and they don't want Washington coming in controlling their COVID, how they handled COVID and all those great things. The city of St. Louis is mature enough to deal with their own police, and I think it should be a local control issue.
Imagine this, though. I do think it's been about 15 years since they took control back from the state. I don't think anybody can say we've done such great things that there's no way this could be an option. I'm not sure the 15-year window they've done a whole lot of things that make it where I think on the floor it's going to struggle to come up with defenses other than just the citizens of St. Louis pay for their police, they should run it, which I think is a very good argument. I'm not sure you've got a lot of successes to point to, though, right?
You know, I think a lot of those missteps were products of Jefferson City. You know, in 2016, Governor Nixon vetoed Senate Bill 656, which was the overhaul of Missouri's gun laws, which made it easier for folks to obtain guns. And then you see gun violence spike in the city of St. Louis. I think those are directly correlated.
Well, I mean, I will see a Republican say back the blue, black the blue, black the blue. Unless it's gun control, then those guys are nuts. You can't have that. There is you talk to actual cops, they'll tell you there's some small things that could be done in high crime areas to limit the number of guns that might be helpful. I hear nobody seriously talking about that that's something that could happen.
And I think that's unfortunate. You know, I think if we're going to have a real conversation about reducing crime in St. Louis or in anywhere else, I think we need to talk about the whole range of things that go into that issue. So I mean, I can appreciate where people are at on the state control of the St. Louis Police Department, but I think that the solutions to that problem are a lot bigger than that. And I don't know that state control has particularly helped. You know, I'm just down the road from Kansas City. I don't know that it's benefited us particularly to do it that way.
He lays out, Brandon, those ideas. They seem like they have merit. I see none of that even being a starter in a supermajority Republican General Assembly.
Well, I would agree. I don't listen. It's my belief, and I appreciate the stance that Will's got, but I don't see any scenario or any steps towards any type of gun control is going to gain any headway. I mean, that's an infringement on our rights, and I hear the arguments from the other side, but I would tell you I don't agree with them. I don't agree with them, and I think controls on guns, I don't think that stops crime. I think crime will continue to happen. I think law-abiding citizens are going to do the right thing, and those folks that want to break the law are going to do the wrong thing, regardless of any steps that we take for gun control, and I'm not going to ever be in favor of it.
Give me a prediction here. At the end of session, when you drive back to Warrensburg, will the state of Missouri once again control the St. Louis City Police Force?
If I'm giving you a prediction, I think that's a stretch right now. I do. I think that's a stretch. I would be in favor of that, but I think it's a stretch.
What do you think? When you go back to Independence in May, will the St. Louis Police Department be under state control again?
You know, I would have to say probably not.
What do you think?
I think it depends on if the Senate can agree on anything.
You're talking about Carla May, right? Because I think Carla May, something tells me this could pass the House. Something tells me if this was up for a vote, it passes the Senate. Something also tells me Carla May not be too keen on, and she is so well respected. I think just her personal stature could keep that from happening.
I think Senator May is one hell of a fighter, and I'd follow her in almost any fight.
What do you think? End of the day, when you go back home in May, is the St. Louis Police Department under state control?
I think you hit on the key issue just a minute ago. I think it'll probably pass the House, but I don't think it gets through the Senate, and I think we don't have state control at the end of the session.
Interesting. We're going to come back after this. We'll talk about some of the other issues that are going to be up in the General Assembly when we come back.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
I'm Scott Faughn. Join me for an in-depth look at the life and the career of Missouri's 57th governor, Mike Parson. We'll sit down with his former staff members, other state leaders, and the First Lady for a look at his entire career and legacy that he leaves behind the state of Missouri. Join me for an in-depth look at the life and the career and the legacy of the 57th governor of the great state of Missouri, Mike Parson.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back this week in Missouri Politics. We have an all-freshman House member panel. Representative Will Jobe, thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Freshman Representative Ray Reed, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Mike Steinmeyer from Independence, I sure appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And Brandon Phelps, thank you for sticking around with us.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the issue that seems to hang over every single thing in Missouri politics, abortion. Amendment 3 passes by a slim margin. You know, I've heard people talk about the ballot language being, I can always tell if you're pro-life or pro-choice. You know how if you call it abortion, probably pro-life. You call it reproductive health freedom, you're probably pro-choice. You can decide if that's good or not, but I just found my ways to tell. Amendment 3 did pass. There's a lot of, I've heard, probably heard more discussion about that by members of your caucus than anything else. What do you do to approach it? Do you go back to the ballot next summer? Do you start passing laws like you did for before Roe versus Wade to kind of limit abortions? What's the right strategy?
Or some combination of both.
Yep.
I do believe
All of the above.
we're probably going to plan to put some question on the ballot at some point in the future. I don't know that that's going to come immediately, but I think we need to work within the boundaries and the parameters that we have within that law to make this state as pro-life as we possibly can while respecting the will of the voters. And so I think you're going to see both to answer that question.
Right. I do think when this debate went from a big win for the pro-choice side in November, but as session started to come up, I heard people say, well, you know, it was only 3 points. And I do think that the margin of victory would, if I was on the pro-life side, it would embolden me to take another run at this.
You know, the people have spoken, and the issue of abortion is the toughest decision. Reproductive health care in general is the toughest decision that anyone. See, I knew when you guys decision that anyone's ever going to have to make in their life, and that decision won't be made any easier by government dictating when, if, and how it happens.
Representative, you have a district that I'm very familiar with. Independence. I love Independence. Shout out to Victor Callahan. Independents are much more moderate term Democrats than you'll find in a lot of other parts. Even a Democrat in West County, St. Louis, Independence has its own flavor. This issue is a little more delicate in your district than maybe it is in a lot of others. A little more complicated, maybe.
Yes, I agree with that. Where I come down on the whole thing though is a little bit where Ray was saying. I mean, we had the vote. It was 51-48. It was 3 points. But if you were elected as a representative in a House seat by 3 points, I'm pretty sure you would be here now.
Oh, you're representative.
And doing your thing. And I've heard a lot as we started this session about people pointing back to Article 1, Section 1 about the power of the government deriving from the will of the people. And I just think it's a hard sell to immediately after we just had the vote, we just had the expression of the will of the people to try to come back now and either undo or change what was just decided. So I mean, I appreciate what you said about working within the framework of what was passed. I would suggest that that's what ought to be done, and that's what was even contemplated in the amendment. That there's room for the legislature to set regulations and do things within that certain parameters. But to me, the worst place we could end up, abortion is just a nuclear issue for everybody. And the worst place we could end up, to me, is if we end up coming back every 2 years and doing this all over again and having another question and then trying to flip the law one way or the other so that we have no stable standard.
Now, I think when they send this back to the states, there's no way to avoid, I don't know about every 2 years, but frequently putting this on the ballot and letting the people figure out where they are. But I watched with Prop A, right? The minimum wage. Folks raised the minimum wage. They came right back and wanted to raise it again. And if I had to guess, because of inflation, there'll be a group that wants to put another minimum wage hike on, probably on the presidential ballot in 4 years. What do you think? I mean, I do think the margin of victory gives the pro-life side, plus the supermajority they want to get, all saying they're pro-life. I feel like that margin gives you a little room to work.
I think so. I mean, there's going to be a committee that's going to look at it. I had just questions about some of the vagueness in the amendment itself. Pregnant person, for example. I mean, we need to put some definition to some of the terms that people struggle with in my district that voiced to me. And I think the committee's going to look at that. I don't know how involved the courts are going to be. This particular challenge to this session is going to be real, and they're going to have to put some meat on the bones to figure out what we can do and can't do. And so I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to see what this committee comes up with, and we'll have those debates, won't we?
Well, let's do. We can't let you get out without a prediction, Brandon. Before you leave in May, do you have something on the ballot next August?
I don't think we have something on the ballot as early as next August, but I do think we will have some things done within those parameters we've been given to move this a little more pro-life. Absolutely.
Next primary election, will there be an abortion referendum on the ballot?
I think it might be too soon. The government moves slow, and there's a lot of opinions and a lot of emotion centered around this one. So I would be surprised if there is.
What do you think?
I think we honor the voice of the people. We'll leave it alone.
Yeah, I've never really seen you do that, but what do you think?
I don't think there'd be a question on it in 2 years.
You're going to be 4 years? I mean, it's going to be 2 or 4 years,
Yeah.
right? I mean, more than 2.
I would imagine we eventually get there. I just don't think it'd be immediately.
Interesting. Let's talk about the president that will be inaugurated tomorrow, Donald J. Trump. What an amazing phenomenon he is. Take the country out of it, just in Missouri. Donald Trump runs well. He gets all your normal Republican votes. But you go to the Boot Hill, Jeffco, South County, St. Louis. You go really to eastern Jackson County, the places that get a lot of union working folks. Donald Trump, for a Republican, hits it out of the park. It is a very special relationship this oddly New York real estate developer has with the people of Missouri.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, with Donald Trump, we are in a situation that we usually don't get to be in, which we've now seen what he can do for us. There's a record. We've got history with him, and we've seen what we get in our government without. And,
I'm waiting to fill my truck up for Tuesday.
Yeah, well, listen, he served the people of this country well. His record speaks for itself, and that's what the people voted for, and I love it.
Well, you're an independent, a unique place. Donald Trump's quite popular in independents, especially for a Republican.
I mean, he is. In my district in particular, he won, I think, 55%.
Do you think it's what he says, or is it how he says it? I almost think it's more how he says it.
Yeah, probably more how. I think it's more people just like somebody that's
They
Take
he
your
tells it
rectangle
like it
votes.
is. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. What do you think? And now the place where he is not as popular as Republican runs would be somewhere around the Galleria Mall where you represent.
That's right.
Although I do think sometimes some of his most fervent critics have been his best friends. They arrest him for stuff, and they do things that I don't think the American people thought. I don't think it helped make him less politically popular.
Yeah, on this issue, I'm not as focused on St. Louis because we're going to vote Democrat. Democrats have been producing results time and time again. I'm picking the folks in Wright County down at the bottom of the state and Putnam County at the top of the state. Those are the folks who aren't hard to reach, but they feel hardly reached by their government. And now it's up to Republicans and President Trump to produce results for them. If they can't,
I'm glad he mentioned Putnam County. I think it may come down to this. If you're offended that the mascot of the Putnam County High School is the midgets, you might not be able to connect with Missouri that great. If you're not offended, you think it's funny, you might be a Trump voter, right?
Well, I like Putnam County because that's the deer superhighway of this state.
That's fact.
And that's a great place to go hunting. I come from Sugar Creek Independence area, which is strong labor, and it's been traditional Democrat. And I've had many people that came up to me and said, I've never voted for a Republican in my life, but I voted for you. Don't let me down. That weighs on me. When I saw Sean O'Brien go to the Republican National Convention, and he spoke with passion for labor, and he extended that hand because Donald Trump extended that hand. I think the Republicans have a real opportunity to take that labor vote and start building on that.
They get borrowed, not given. You got to prove it.
Absolutely.
But we've only borrowed this airtime, so if we don't get off here, we're in kid up. But the minute left, who won the week?
Law and Order.
Nice. Kehoe means what he says, man. The dude keeps his word.
He does.
Whether you like it or not, it's different.
Yeah, and we got a legislature that wants to back the blue. We've got the governor that wants to back the blue, and Law and Order wins. And I think people from one side of the state to the other are going to see that they don't have to be afraid of crime. And Law and Order wins the week.
Who won the week?
I think the state of Missouri and everyone who calls their home, specifically Jackson County, we have a speaker that we have not.
Congratulations.
18
Gosh,
years.
that time.
So,
And one you be proud of. Who won the week?
the Honorable Governor Jeremiah J. Nixon. He got to come for the inauguration. It was great to see him, and he's enjoying his life now.
What a good man. He's served this state very well. Who won the week?
I'm going to give credit where it's due, and Mike Kehoe. This week was about him
And celebrating a true American dream.
that's right.
If you looked at the situation when he was born into, to think he'd be being sworn as governor, no one would have. There would have been 1,000,000 to 1 odds, 2 million. I think you're right about that. I'm going to say one of Governor Kehoe's picks, Angie Nelson, who's his pick to lead the Department of Commerce and Insurance. Obviously, some changes need to be made, and I think there's a lot of folks rallying around her as the bright person to make those changes. Hope you'll come back and don't make a change, and join us next week here on This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is sponsored by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, the United Electric Cooperative, and the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts.